face of death, I shall have no remorse.
Hey guys, Minnow2799 here, and today we're going to be talking about Dawn of War 3 and if you should be worried about it. Yes, it was just announced here recently, and a lot of us, I believe, are excited, but we all remember Dawn of War 2, and there was quite a few people who were disappointed with it. So we're just going to be taking a look and see what we can come to expect with the little bit of information we have so far. And so getting straight into it, first thing I want to talk about is the confirmed facts we have so far. It comes from an interview with Relic and PC Gamer, and they have confirmed that base building will be back, and I think that's a pretty welcome thing for people because I think a lot of it was missed in Dawn of War 2. Second thing that will be back is the resources will kind of be a little more old school. You will build power generators and then gather requisition from captured points. Now, they said nothing about capturing power points, so this makes me think that the Dawn of War 2 style, where there are points that give you power and other points that give you requisition, is kind of reverting back to how it was in Dawn of War 1, where every point, be it a relic critical location or requisition point, gives you requisition, and then you build power generators at your base for power, which I think that makes sense if they are in fact going for the base building that they say is going to be in the game. And next thing is the armies we have confirmed so far, and from what it sounds like, the only ones that will be in the game, which I'll talk about later. And so far we have the Eldar, the Orcs, and the Space Marines that we can see inside of the trailer. Now, I'll go in for a little speculation, and I understand that it's a completely different developer, but we have gotten a couple good 40k games recently, and I think that means at least a little something. The first one that you're seeing now is Battlefleet Gothic Armada, which is a sort of space RTS that doesn't have any of the base building, and it's a lot more kind of like Total War, where you set your units up at the beginning of a fight and then go at it. And it's actually pretty fun, and I think that's a good sign because it shows that even if it's a different developer, that at least Games Workshop is letting people who are talented have their games, which there has been quite a few 40k games that have come out that have, kind of had Games Workshop blessing, and they've just been pretty horrible before these two. And while Battlefield Gothic isn't really my, cup of tea, it's still a pretty fun game, and it's really interesting on, I have liked that they've ventured out into something that hasn't really been expanded on in the 40k universe here recently, at least, because we've had Dawn of Wars, and we've had the Space Marine game that was third person. We have Eternal Crusade that I'm bringing up here in a minute. We have all of those, but none of those really have to do with the sort of space combat and everything. And that's a big part of 40k, when there's galaxies and, combat and planets and planets and planets and planets and the Imperium, it's something that comes up. It's not just really ignored, and I really enjoy it in the books, and I'm glad to finally see a game that is, sort of taking advantage of something that people kind of seem to have forgotten about as far as other games go. But moving on from a game that's completely different, let's go back to some of the originals. Here we have some pictures that I've brought up from the first, second, and a screenshot from the third Dawn of War. And what I did is I sort of cropped this screenshot of the Space Marines attacking some Eldar, and I wanted to try and recreate as closely as I could the scene that we see from Dawn of War 3, just to see how it compared. And so as you can see in Dawn of War 1, I obviously couldn't get las guns because those were not in the game, as Devastator squads themselves weren't even in the game, just kind of completely ignored, which was a shame. But we instead have some Space Marines with rocket launchers, and due to sort of the squads and everything, I didn't get to add the extra 3, but it's about the same. I also have Dreadnoughts filling in for the large vehicle that we see in Dawn of War 3. So pretty much what you would expect from Dawn of War 1. And Dawn of War 2 looks same sort of art style and everything. It looks a little closer, not nearly as sort of smooth or polished that Dawn of War 3 looks right now, which I think looks a little weird, a little too clean maybe. But the biggest problem we have here is in the Dawn of War 2 picture, that is the entirety of the army that you can have. The forces in that screenshot are all of the forces that I could in the vanilla game mobilize to fight with. And that was, I think, people's biggest complaint was this is supposed to be the grim, dark future of 40K, and this is all you gave me to play with. And I understand that they were going for a more sort of dynamic, decision-focused combat that Company of Heroes had done, but I just don't think it fit well with the 40K theme. And some people I know loved it, but a majority of people I know hated it and just begged for the original Dawn of War 1 style combat, where, as you can see in the background, I have some whirlwinds. I have about 10 whirlwinds up there because my vehicle cap was completely unused with the force you see right there. And it was just, in my opinion, so much more fun to have these hundreds of units fighting each other instead of these tens of units. And while I do think Dawn of War 3 looks similar to Dawn of War 2 right now, you can obviously have at least a few more units, and it could possibly even bring back the vehicle cap and infantry cap, which I think is the best way to do it. So this is just a little bit of fun comparison. Maybe you guys can spot something I didn't. Not really too much to see here, just sort of different art style and how kind of, I guess, graphics has evolved from, I believe, 2004. Speaking of 2004, let's take a little trip through the past, and as we can see here, I've pulled up Relic's games that they've made in the past couple of years, and we're going to take a look at them and see if we can get a little insight on what's going on with Dawn of War 3. And as you can see, in 2004, the first Dawn of War game came out that was pretty darn awesome, and it was pretty quickly followed by 3 expansion packs, which added another 5 races on top of the 4 that were released with the base game. And I enjoyed all of the expansion packs. I think a lot of people thought Dark Crusade was probably the best one, but even Soulstorm I thought was, okay, about the same style campaign and a couple new races to play around with, but the flying units could have taken a back seat and stayed out of it as far as I'm concerned. But moving on, we had Company of Heroes in 2006, which was another fantastic game, very different from Dawn of War, even though it's the same type of genre. It only had 2 factions, though. It was followed by 2007 with the Opposing Fronts expansion pack, which added another 2 factions, and then Tales of Valor was its own sort of thing, and I'll let you make your mind up on that. And then in 2009, again, we had Dawn of War 2, and it was followed by Chaos Rising, which added the surprisingly missing from the first game, the Chaos faction. And I think a lot of people really like the Chaos, and so it was weird that they didn't choose to include them in their base game. I guess they wanted people to be excited for something in their expansion pack. Anyway, Chaos Rising was followed by Dawn of War 2 Retribution, which added the Imperial Guard, who were really, really kind of outshadowed by everybody else, and I think they could have done a much better job of putting them in the game. And then in 2013, we had Company of Heroes 2. While THQ was going through its bankruptcy, it was the rights were bought by Sega, who is also having Relic make the Dawn of War 3 game. So even though Company of Heroes 2 was sort of riddled with microtransactions and all that sort of thing that I'm not even going to get into, and all of its little weird expansion DLC packs, I think that might have had something to do with the fact that THQ was going bankrupt and not that Sega had just bought it and was like, let's pry a bunch of money out of these guys. But anyway, that's just kind of my theory. I think a lot of people are at first going to be worried when Dawn of War 3 only has 3 armies in it, and I think we're going to be okay. Give it a year or 2, and although that kind of sucks we have to wait, we will probably get, if all things work out well, another decent at worst expansion pack, adding another race or 2. And for all we know, they could add another 2 or 3 expansion packs on top of that one and give us maybe even 9 or more races like the original games did. So I think it's safe to be optimistic. Now, at the end of the day, I mean, we've talked about a lot, and really there's not a lot of information to go off, but I think at the very least it's, something to be optimistic about. I mean, I don't think we have anything to be too worried about, especially just yet. There's almost been nothing out about the game. So if you liked the video, please like it. If you didn't, go ahead and toss me a dislike, let me know. And if you want to know more about Dawn of War 3, go ahead and subscribe because I'll be watching this game closely. Thank you all guys, and I'll talk to you later.